What's up, Wapham crew? Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high. Get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, November 1st, Monday, November 2nd. For those of you across the pond and beyond, welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm so glad you guys can join us tonight on one of our many outlets. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and I hope you guys had an awesome Halloween. We had a really good time last night with a costume party contest thing going on, and it was just really interesting and entertaining, and it really made a lot of people's nights for sure. A lot of us have been having the issue of sleep schedules being messed up. I know a lot of that started with COVID, but even I think other things in the spiritual realm is kind of messing with our stuff. But if you're listening to us live right now, you're listening to us on Spreaker.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Tumblr, YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, as well as Podcast Addict. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know a bit more about Len Dorman. We had him on for the first time last night, and he was our judge, and his costume was awesome. It just put this big old smile on my face. But welcome, Len, and thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight as well as last night. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah, I had a great time last night. This morning, I didn't get off here till about 5:30, I think. You were long gone.
Yeah, I kicked off at 5. I was like,
I'm still having...
You still what? Are you still there?
We're still going. It's 5:30 after you went to bed. Still with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I had...
oh, yeah, I hear you much better with the headset.
Yeah, definitely try that. I had to put mine on tonight, but last night I was doing the Facebook Live, so I had my headphones off and had to keep muting and kept forgetting to unmute. But yeah, it was loads of fun, and it was awesome, you and Mia getting to meet and get to know each other right away. When I met her, you know, she's just amazing. I'm so grateful to have her in my life, but she's such a wonderful energy, and I'm glad we were able to make her night awesome as well.
Yes, I think everybody had a good time. Everybody, even after you left, we were still smiling and having a great time. And I appreciate you having the forum to create such a fun time on Halloween for adults during this COVID.
Yeah, and it just happened to land on a Saturday, and yeah, thank you, because without you guys, like, I think by myself I'd be a bit awkward and not so much fun, but I don't know. A lot of people say I am fun. I think I'm boring. But it was awesome hanging out with you guys. Like I said, I've wanted to do a Halloween party every year, but mostly it's about the kids, and with COVID this year it was just hard for them. But they had a good day. Like I said, they got to do a scavenger hunt, and then they got to do the trunk or treat next door, and then they stayed up while I was on the show watching scary movies, which they love, all that stuff. But it was a really good night. I think it turned out good. I think for a lot of us it started off kind of low and ho-hum as far as energy and stuff, and then we just kind of perked it up and peaked it.
Yes, here locally, though, I don't think there's any house-to-house trick-or-treating, but all the businesses in Star City teamed up and gave out candy. One pizza place, I don't know if I should mention his name or not, because he does not pay me money, but he seems to be a good man. I think it was 400 hot dogs he distributed to kids along with candy, which was amazing. And all the other stores were giving out candy in downtown, some until about 8 o'clock last night. So the local children actually had a good time. And I was concerned about that. And Mike made a specific thing. Well, I just mentioned his name. That's his name, not his business anyway. Told the wife last night to tell your husband that all 400 hot dogs were gone and distributed to kids, and they had a great time. Because he knew I was a little bit concerned about the kids, because I think early on, from starting about 4 o'clock till about 8, those 4 hours of Halloween should be the time for kids. I said, we've got the rest of the night. We can go do an investigation or during COVID times, just have to have fun on the internet and stay safe. And I had a great time last night myself.
Me too. Yeah, I didn't want to wuss out, but I was like, man, okay, it was 5 o'clock. I needed to get something to eat, and I was just coming down pretty hard. Crashed out with my ass out. No, it was nice hanging out with you guys. We had a lot of fun, and I know Nikki and Robert were on here, so I'm glad you didn't come back to nobody being here. That would have really bummed me out. But I really love the group of people that we have here and all the different energies. And, you know, it's hard to find good people anymore, and I think we got a pretty good group going on.
I agree. They're good time, and concerned about being any fun without you. But then again, I got talking with them, and she's gone to bed. Okay, so we just started cutting up and talking and had a good time. No offense, we did quite all right without you. So if you get caught like that again and you crash, just go ahead and crash. We'll just go at it, shut it down when we want to. I slept till 1:30 today, and I'm still having these pop-ups.
Yeah, Microsoft
I don't
is just...
know why they're insisting.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully you'll get that fixed. Holy shnikes. It is a pain in the butt. They're just like, here, update this and update that. And Champ came in, Nick, in the chat room, and he was bummed out because he came to the after party last night and nobody was there, but he didn't make a comment in the chat room, so I didn't know to pull him over. I don't know. I could have just hung up and restarted the party on the Wapham after party, but I don't know. For some apparent reason, I just added people because the group over there is pretty big, and not even half the people that we have on the list join in, but sometimes they do periodically. So I don't know. I just felt like staying in the paranormal forum and pulling people in. Even my sister had gone in and, hey, where's everybody? I wanted to say howdy. And so we got to pull her in. Man, I didn't get to talk to her today and see if she did all right at the casino.
Yeah, she seemed like she was looking forward to a good time in there. I don't gamble myself. I did 2 trips to Vegas. I lost a total of 75 cents because that's all I gambled. I hit the quarter slash 3 times on 2 different occasions.
Yeah, I used to work in a casino, and I didn't really gamble, but, you know, sometimes when I'd get paid, I'd take $20, and that's all I would spend. Put it in the machines. If I won anything, I'd take the winnings, put it aside, and take $20 and spend that, and if I lost it, I lost it, and if I won again, then I'd continue on. But the thing that I really want to do, and I've been wanting to do around my birthday time every year, is go and play some Texas Hold'em and see how that goes, because I'm not really big on slot machines. You know, they're really bright and sparkly, and you get to pull the lever and feel like you have that interaction, but I really love playing Texas Hold'em and taking my chances that way, as opposed to some intelligent machine.
Okay. Well, what do we want to talk about tonight?
Well, you were on last night, and we got to know a little bit more about you, but could you go ahead and tell our listeners about you and how you got on the path of the paranormal?
All right, I'll just start from the beginning. My parents, my father's family, had some property in North Florida, about north central Florida, maybe 100 miles into Florida from Georgia. And they had, like I said, it was a debate whether it was slave quarters or sharecroppers' quarters or former slave quarters that were turned into quarters. It's unknown when the house was built. The main house, I think they said, was built about 1900. My father's ancestor bought the property with money he got from being a Confederate veteran. And you remember Lincoln put in the Confederate veterans got money, got the Medicare, their medical needs taken care of, just like the American soldiers, even though they were technically enemy. That was his little part of trying to unite the country. And he used that money he was being paid to buy some property that nobody was using at that point, because so many of the old land been broke. And if you read the history, a lot of the old property owners, the old slaveholders, went to Cuba and tried to form a slave-owned country, and they just didn't quite have the money because they, hauling their possessions and their slaves and whatever down there to Cuba, exhausted all their money, and they couldn't talk the Cubans into letting them set up a new government. But anyway, he bought the property there. It was kind of sandy, wasn't the best cotton growing area. Cotton is really hard on the soil. The best way to grow cotton is to grow cotton one year, soybeans the next, because soybeans puts minerals back in the soil. And if you just grow cotton, very soon you had next to no return. And by the time I was there, in fact, by the time my father was very old at all, the land had grown back to a lot of pine trees. But there was an old house, and I've always wanted to go in it, and I finally talked to them to let me go in there. The boards were secure enough that at one time to get in it. They did not go in it because I was about 8 years old, so all double or triple my body weight. So they let me go in because they were afraid they were going to fall through. And I went in and walked around, and of course I found out that I could part of the history of the building just by walking through it. So I maintained an interest in the paranormal. I could always walk through a cemetery, walk into an old house and feel things. At my parents' house, I could see Native Americans moving around. And when I went out in the backyard at night, I saw things that I couldn't explain. Nobody could. And it was probably spirits moving around. My parents, of course, were saying there's no monsters, there's no ghosts. And, like parents do. And, the interest kind of waned, sat on the back burner, and then Ghostbusters come out. Because before that, there was no equipment. After Ghostbusters, you started hearing a little bit about more what's going on. Dale Kaczmarek and Richard Crowe in Chicago were doing a little bit of investigation, but they were having to work with tape recorders. That's about all they had. The Warrens were out investigating with equipment they used, but most of it was homemade. God bless them. They did very good with what they had. I mean, all the names I mentioned, God bless them all. They tried with what they was available at the time. And I thought, if some equipment come out and I could, get some spare time when I wasn't working, because I was owning my own business, the capitalistic dream, and working with the JCs, and I was just too busy to do it. But then I got to Chicago, and I was still on the back burner, but there were so many haunted places in Chicago. I said, I want to see these things, but I don't want to go alone. So I finally joined a meetup group, which was a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, and that was one of mine. What I should have done was join Dale Kaczmarek's group, but I thought I was on a mistaken thing that Dale Kaczmarek lived on the north end of town. I did not know much about the Chicago, thought the address, and I thought he lived on the north end. No, he lived on the south end. I could get from his door to my door in 30 minutes. And in Chicago, that's pretty close when you can get there in 30 minutes, because even at 30 minutes times, I'd be going through upteen traffic lights because on the south side, Chicago's got 3 million people, which is equal to the total population of Arkansas, crowded in that little area. So every intersection, if the road's paved and two paved roads cross, there's a red light. And, that was a mistake on my part. But it ended up creating a paranormal group. And we went a few places, and then I parted company with them. And again, I should have joined Dale's group, but we were always thinking about leaving. And about that time is when I'll go into this later, some really cutting edge research going on. Because I prefer to be called a paranormal investigator rather than a ghost hunter. Because ghost hunter sounds like you're walking around with a gun.
Yeah, you're aggressive.
And a camera in your hand or mounted on your hat or something.
Yeah.
Yes. Because a lot of your work is in a library. You're looking up, find a grave. You're looking in cemeteries for particular graves. This person's buried here. This person's buried here. What was some of their past? It's a lot of reading. It's a lot. Even with internet, you still need to go to the library and read some books. Like the book I had with the hat I've got on, and show that to the camera. There's a pen. Can you see that? And there's a logo I came up with for the investigation. Yes, my own design. Thank you.
I like it.
Anyway, I had to do research as to where this place was. I knew it existed, but I didn't know where it was exactly. So I had to do research and then jump on a bus and jump in a car when I had one, and go to this location and dig into it. And I found the pen. This was from the Camp Douglas Restoration Society, and I talked with them. And then I read a couple of books. George Levy wrote "To Die in Chicago." I read the book. I talked with him on the phone, and finally, during the investigation, I asked him to come down, and he did a slide presentation. I invited a lot of people to pay me for the investigation, but if you want to come down for the presentation, that's free. I said, the author's not charging me anything, so it's nothing on me. I'm not paying my money, not charging anything. You just got a freebie. Come down and see it. So I had a very large crowd down there to see the slideshow on his book, To Die in Chicago. And as he said, it was kind of spooky to him because it's the first time he ever showed the slideshow on site. He normally goes to clubs, to meetings, to talk his book a little bit, but he'd never done it. He never did an outside presentation to start with, to say nothing on site. Camp Douglas actually stood, and it was a little bit spooky to him. But he got through to answer questions. Was a great guy. A friend of mine came down. Have you ever seen or been to an investigation like this? He said, I've never heard of an investigation like this. Because it was almost like a mini con. I said, look, you've got right down the road, and I pointed into a direction, a city block away. I said, Stephen Douglas, and to people who haven't studied history, Stephen Douglas is a really short guy who debated Lincoln, and whose debates are looked at even today. In fact, a lot of presidential candidates, who, when they debate, see the Lincoln-Douglas debates, because they both debated slavery and how to handle it. That's a very serious subject by today's standards, I mean, today they argue over things that don't mean a whole lot. There, they were arguing about the future of the country and perhaps changing the Constitution one way or the other to figure it out. And his tomb was there, and it was only going to be open for about another hour. So I said, look, if anybody wants to go over here, and you can walk into Stephen Douglas's tomb, if you want to touch his sarcophagus, they'll, open up and see if you can get some EVPs there or get some video. They don't care. So you got a tiny corner of his house standing there. That's what was called Camp Douglas, because Stephen Douglas donated the property. Basically, it was kind of swampland to the federal government to have a prison camp there. And a lot of people, somebody finally said, I know where it is. And he went over there, came back with some pictures on his cell phone of the sarcophagus itself. He said, look, I was able to take pictures of the sarcophagus in the entire investigation. Went over there to the Stephen Douglas tomb, just as a freebie. Nobody knew it was there. The Stephen Douglas was even buried remotely there. And then we had the book presentation. I did. They're on YouTube now. They're interviewed on camera 2 of the board of directors from the Camp Douglas Restoration Society. And then I got on camera with the author, George Levy, and interviewed him just one-on-one in front of the camera with somebody else standing behind the camera. And I was having to direct myself and concentrate, of course, asking questions. And, if he started rambling or getting off topic, I'd kind of ask a question and guide him back. Where you know how to do interviews. You do this. And that's all on YouTube. And everybody was just shocked and said, okay, this is an all-night thing. We got this place till dawn. And Dale Casmerick was there. He took one side. He just lit up the trees and got some EVPs. We had a great time. And that's what this hat and, if I can say it, the shirt's about. It's got the same logo that the hat did. And I survived the Camp Douglas investigation.
So when he did that presentation on site, did it trigger any sort of activity?
We had a little bit of activity all night. It's not the activity like a lot of people want. Some people, you haven't seen anything unless it's a full-body apparition coming up and slapping your face, or a demon comes up and scratches you. You know how that goes. But you had light anomalies in the darkness. You had the grass was shooting lights running through the grass, like it was electrical wire, and you could see the light going, taking a zigzag pattern across the grass. And EVPs were nearly constant. You just had to really listen carefully because there were so many voices talking. Because you're not there looking for one person or 5 people, or maybe 6 or 7 were murdered here, or whatever. 6,000 people died at this place. So at any one time, we had 50, 60 people trying to talk at one time. It's very hard to decipher the EVP. I could have, if I'd stayed in Chicago, I'd have continued to study the location and just go there every chance I get, like I did Baxter's Grove. And that's why I talk about Baxter's Grove a lot, is because I went there a lot. And that's where I highly surprised Dale Casmerick, who's been doing paranormal stuff since the early 70s. And I absolutely shocked him when I said, you know that picture of the white lady you took? Yeah, of course. But you didn't have to get it. She just with my group. We have copyright with it. I said, I know who it is. And I can prove it. And the look on his face. And then I showed him a picture that I found through research that he had never seen. Put it side by side with the picture that Judy Huff took in the early 90s. This picture was taken at the lady's wedding day in 1863. Now, the one in the early 1990s was taken with a 35 millimeter infrared film. He still has a negative. He has had Ghost Adventures and a couple other shows tested the negative, showed it to experts, and they said the negative has not been tampered with. So it's about as much verified as you can get. There's various people have verified the negative has not been tampered with. The only thing you can say is, well, it must have been a double exposure because a woman was there, and you could say you get double exposed it somehow, and you can do that with 35 millimeter photography because you can see through her. But you can also see the huge spots on her wedding dress, and she had rather large polka dots on her wedding dress. And the picture I had was on her wedding day. Vaguely see the spots on her dress sitting on the stone. And remember, one picture was taken in 1863. The other one was taken, I think, in 1992, I think. Sir, 1991, 92. Of the same woman, same hairstyle, basically the same face, and in the same dress. And it is in a similar pose. And I found out, I had found out to prove that was her, why she would be there. So I had to do, again, some digging, some research on various people. And it turned out, I was, Ghost Adventures was told I had done this research. They were given my cell phone number, and they said, call him and interview him. He will give you the latest findings from Bachelor's Grove. They didn't call me because my story is not demonic. What I found was not demonic. It was not evil spirits. It's not scary at all.
Yeah, I had the producers of Ghost Adventures reach out to me, and they're like, we were wondering if you had any cases that were demonic or there's murders or suicides. Otherwise, they're not really interested. And I know those are high energy, high spike cases where, there's tragedy, so there's recordings or residuals or whatnot that play back. But I'm interested in the intelligent entities, not just a playback of something that happened.
Exactly. And this is something that will probably be near and dear to you. The reason she comes back to Bachelor's Grove, her name is Amelia Humphrey. The story, she has a kind of a tragic story. In 1863, she married, her family was prominent back then. Now there's no trace of the family, they all died off. And the family she married into, I think their family, the last members of their family kind of died off just a few years ago. But her family died off 100 years ago. But back then, in the 1860s, they were prominent landowning people. She married a guy who owned less land, but he was one of these personable people. You know what I'm talking about, the kind that you talk to them for 5 minutes and say, okay, they're going places. Yeah. They're going to do something with their life.
Very
and
charismatic.
He was like that. So he impressed her parents. Yes. Proposed to her, and of course they immediately gave permission because they thought he was, as you say, charismatic. And you know how daughters were in the 1860s, especially during the Civil War. There wasn't that many people, men not knocking on your door wanting to marry your daughter. There wasn't a leg or an arm or part of their head or something, because the Civil War was going. And of course that affected Chicago. Chicago was a big, for the entire Midwest, they would go to Chicago for boot, as much as they taught you. They basically taught you, okay, can you hit that barn over there? Okay, you hit the barn. Okay, you can march halfway in time. Okay, you're in the Army. That's about all the boot there was. But anyway, they accepted the proposal. She got married. He was elected in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, early 70s, to several political positions, and finally was holding the state senatorship of the area. And after being reelected a couple of times by 1880, a powerful man, Cook County, which is the county where Chicago is, outside the city of Chicago. Senator John Humphrey. You can look him up. There's plenty of information on Google. She got sick and died, I think, 1881, soon after their brand new house. But back when he first started getting in political office, one, it was kind of a marriage by convenience. It helped him, it helped her. And there was no real love there. He hired a secretary. And him and the secretary almost immediately started having an affair. So they had an affair for a couple of decades. 6 months after his first wife, whose name is Amelia Patrick Humphrey, Patrick being her middle name, I mean her maiden name. 6 months she died, he marries his secretary. So one, tell me this wouldn't cause a few issues in the afterlife. She knew in the back of her mind that her husband had been having an affair for a very long time.
Yeah, but how do you prove it, right?
Yeah. Well, obviously the marriage 6 months, they actually created a scandal. If he'd waited a year, nobody would have said anything. But he married her 6 months after his wife died. And they, of course, lived in the new house. There was some talk about abuse of Amelia's children. That cannot be proved. That's rumor. That story cannot be proved. And then she had 2 or 3 children, by him later in life, and then in the 1890s. And where they're buried in a new cemetery, a fairly new, that opened up in 1869. He bought a large plot. He is buried in the center. His first wife's buried on one side. His second wife is buried on the other. And their children that died locally and were buried are buried beside their individual mothers. So there she is in life, had to put up her with the secretary and knowing it. And then in death, she has to put up with the woman that her husband's having an affair with on the other side of her husband in death. So that created a little bit. I was one of the very few people to go into the Humphrey home at night. Managed to con my way in there. And very, very few people had. And I wouldn't even say this in Chicago, but now that I'm down here, nobody cares. John was short. He was on about 5'5". And
did he have that Napoleon complex
going on? Yeah, he had short man's disease.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. And even though they were slightly out of style, he wore by the 1850s, late 1850s, beaver hats were out of style. They were using synthetics for it from Great Britain. But he had a very, very tall top hat to make up for the height difference. And it was a beaver hat. It was an old-fashioned hat, and he wore that all his life. Well, not a beaver hat, not a replica, but his beaver hat was in his bedroom. So I'm trying to get a trigger object. And I'm looking around, what can I use as a trigger object in here? I see his hat, and I put his top hat on my head. Within minutes, I could see partial apparition in front of me and feel the hatred coming from this entity. I said, I'm right here. I'm right here. You know, what have you got to say to me? And all I got was grumping and groaning. I said, I'm right here. If you want to do something, I'm right here. I said, otherwise, we can sit here and talk. So he stood there for a few seconds. Thought he was going to scare me. Thought I was going to scream or run downstairs or something, because I was in the room alone, as usual. The people I was investigating with were in the kids' room down the hall. And he thought I'd at least run out of the room where they were, I saw something. Nope. I just stood there, and finally he walked off. Finally, I called back to the people. I said, y'all want to see a ghost? Yeah. I said, John Humphrey's standing here in the room. And they come in, and a K2 and my K2 was going off. The other guy's K2 meter was going off. And the other third guy, had a bell, and it was going off. So there was something in that room. And we traced it back where he just disappeared into the wall. Well, I went back to Baxter's Grove a day or two. And, of course, I got to backtrack here a little bit. The first time I had dealings with Amelia, it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve, the 23rd. I forget which, 23rd or the 24th. We were putting leaves on all the known graves in Baxter's Grove. And I could see something shimmering in the air that was warmer than the air because it was about 30 degrees, maybe slightly below. And just it did weeds coming up. So there was no heat. It'd been cloudy all day. There was no heat coming up from the ground. But you know what a heat signature apparition is? You know, when you see something warmer, like the road, specifically
yeah,
black,
it's kind of like the heat waves coming off the asphalt or whatnot.
Shimmering.
Yeah.
Exactly. When it's a human size and humans, and it's just that one little small section, and the ground's not producing heat, what have you got? There's nothing there producing heat, especially at 30 degrees. I saw this figure, and I just looked at it and said, hello, my lady, because I could tell it was female. She stopped and approached me and backed off once or twice to see if I could see her, and my eyes were focusing on the heat signature, and I was filming with a full spectrum camera, got nothing, a tiny little bit of shimmer, but I got and tried to download it from the computer, and it said the file was corrupted. So I got all my pictures, a couple of the videos I shot with the camera, but that one file was corrupted. But get this, I watched the video on the viewfinder in the camera. I talked to 3 camera experts, and they said if the file's corrupted, it's not going to play on the camera. I said I can download it. I can't download it, but I can watch it. Impossible. Yeah, I said, well, that's what I got. It took a year and a half before I was able to delete that file. It wouldn't even delete. And I was able to use the card until the camera wore out and broke. Still got the card now, still perfectly good file, good card, and was able to put 800 and 900 photos on it, plus a video to completely fill the card up, and nothing was ever corrupted again on that camera or that card, using the same card. But the next time, after the events at the Humphrey House, I spoke to her again. I saw her again. And I said, this time, can I keep the video? And I could see a tiny nod and her slight yes. And she moved on past me and disappeared. So it's okay. There's a lady coming in the cemetery just a few minutes before dusk. And I've seen her twice now. So I said, this has got to be something going on. And then I went there several other times right at dusk to see if I saw her again. And almost every day, here she'd come walking by, and we walked till close to the center of the cemetery, a little bit toward the gate, and disappear. I said, okay, there's something going on here, something. And I started doing my research, looked in the house, there was her wedding picture and some other photos of her and John, and there was one thing in particular. It was just a jotted note that somebody had taken a picture of, and I took a picture of it so I'd have it from my own records, and it says, Libby May died 1865, buried Baxter's Grove. I said, wait a minute. So I started digging. The story, I said they bought that nice big thing that they used, but the cemetery did not open until 1869. He'd already bought the plot. He died in 1865, 4 years before they were able to have burials in the cemetery. So John insisted, because he didn't want to buy another funeral plot in another cemetery, insisted that they bury Libby in the Patrick family plot. And the Patrick family plot is still one of the largest plots in Baxter's Grove. Many graves in Baxter's Grove were exhumed when the cemetery was abandoned in the 70s and 80s. There was about half of people buried there were dug up. Some of the headstones were moved. That's why there's so few headstones in there. Some were stolen. But according to records, there's about 200 people still buried there, even though there's only about 17, 18 headstones. And half of them were not in the proper place. But Libby, since that family died off, is still buried in Baxter's Grove. And what was going on every day, every evening, right at dusk, Amelia would come from the cemetery where she was buried to where her firstborn daughter, was buried, to visit her daughter, because her daughter died at 11 months and 4 days, which is not old enough to know how to move around in the afterlife. And I made contact with the daughter. I was just down there, nothing going on. I have a K2 meter with a temperature sensor on the top of it. It's a rare K2, what me I made. And you basically got to put your fingers on it to make it go off. It's an alarm that rings. I was sitting in a chair. I was actually dozing. And all of a sudden the alarm started going off. So I took videos of the K2 meter going off. It was very loud. I mean, when you take it, you can get an 80-degree room, stick it in a freezer, and it'll go off slightly. An air conditioner blows on it. If you can hear hypersonic sounds, you can hear it go off. But to have a loud visual alarm like I was getting, you've got to touch it. And I said, this is interesting. So the next day I went back, and all of a sudden the frequency started changing. I how was this done? So I got to touching at the end of it, the probe myself, and the only way I could make it get anywhere near what was going on was to touch it, let it go, touch it, let it go, touch it, let it go in rapid succession, and I could kind of play a tune like it was being played on. And I started seeing heat apparition signature, excuse me, beside my chair. And it was Libby walking around the cemetery, and I was the only thing there, so she started messing with me. And she started talking and appearing a little bit more in front of me. And Amelia would come a little bit earlier because she wanted to talk to see what was going on with this human being talking to her long dead daughter. And once or twice John came in. He was still a little bit upset. But I sat there and would carry on conversations with Amelia and Lady May. But this doesn't strike people's interest because instead of a horrible death or torture or demonic activity, this was simply the love of a mother of her firstborn child. That's all it was. But, of course, you know yourself, you would do a lot for your children. You know, tell me you wouldn't, your mother. And she come in here and wanted to visit her firstborn child, and she started hanging around me, and she followed me one day out of the cemetery, even though I said don't follow me out. She followed me one day out in the car, went to the house. My wife Gail was on the computer, so I walked in and was telling her all this and that went on today. And it was dark, and I was going to change clothes. We were going to eat dinner or grab something to eat. I think she'd already eaten. But all of a sudden, we heard dishes rattling in the kitchen. In the house in Chicago, we do not have a dishwasher. So she'd hand wash the dishes and put them in the drainer. And those dishes were suddenly rattling around. There was a bowl she had washed. It was a couple of years. We were getting ready to move here when we found that bowl. It was you had to get on your knees in the cabinets, there's in the kitchen. It was way in the back where a child would set something she would play with. You've had kids in your kitchen before. So sit way in the back where we would never set an eating bowl. But there it sat. And there's no way either one of us, because we would have to get down on our hands and knees and place that bowl there. And the only reason we saw it is because we're cleaning the cabinet out. She had placed that bowl down there. And when I heard the rattling around, I said, okay, you got to go home. One other time she followed me home, and she started, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, she started running up and down the hallway outside of her bedroom. She woke Gail up, and Gail said, Amelia, come get your child. She's keeping me awake. I got to go to work tomorrow. And she pulled the covers back over here and rolled back over. Well, sometimes you shouldn't ask for things. A few minutes later, Amelia opened a portal over our bed, grabbed Lady May, took her back through the portal, and when a portal opens, it pushes a certain amount of air away. And when you close a portal, nature pours a vacuum, and you can't have a vacuum in an atmosphere. The atmosphere is going to close back in on it. And when it does, it goes hypersonic. So it was a loud pop, like a firecracker in the room. And I could smell and feel the ozone in the room. I thought a transformer belonged. Then I looked at the clocks were all on. The electricity was still on. I said, okay, she opened up the portal, grabbed. Then I listened. I said, okay, the kid's gone. Everybody's gone. I turned over, went back to sleep. So she had to come get the kid out of our house. One other time, our resident ghost in Chicago, I was downstairs doing something, and he was the child of the previous. The house up there, Gail and her mother were the second owners of the house. So these are the people who bought the house when it was brand new. It was their child. And he died in his 50s, I think, kind of young. But he was painted real macabre, Halloween-ish, Day of the Dead-ish pictures. Well, we had his painting upstairs. Libby May, came too close to it, and he stomped on the floor to scare her away. And I'm downstairs, and I get this big stomp on the ceiling. I said, what in the world? So I went up there and started looking and realized what happened. Okay, just calm down. Libby May, go home. So basically, I kind of taught her so she could move around on her own. When do you want to go to break?
We're actually going to go to break here in just a minute, but if you'd like, we can go now. It's totally up to you.
I'm gonna get stuck in place, so why don't we just go to break now?
All right, well, on this musical break, we have Gravity with Throw You Away. Gravity is actually a band from Krakow, Poland. Then we have Fred Johnson III from Canyon County, California with Sugar. Gravity again with Take a Walk in My Shoes. And Prime Example with Dancing Machine. And in the band Prime Example, we actually have Roy Washington, who is our musical host. You guys enjoy the music. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing, wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar. Why did I make you cry? Whispers flow through my mind when I think about you. That warm feeling in me. My heart sings a sad song and just melts away. Please look into my eyes, my sugar. There's life in out there. Until the sun doesn't shine anymore, I'll be there. When time is a memory, I'll know this love. You will always be the one, my sugar. The feeling is so strong. Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. Where did our love go wrong, my sugar?
So walk down the street, thinking all the things you said you need. Why don't you tell me, baby, how do you feel? So walk down the street, thinking all the things you said you need. Why don't you tell me, baby, how do you feel? Don't you take a walk? Why don't you take a walk? In my shoes, why don't you take a walk? Before you tell me what to do, don't you take a walk? Why don't you take a walk? In my shoes, why don't you take a walk? Before you tell me what to do. No, it's easy, you tell me what to do. Have you ever stopped to think all the things that I've been through? No, it's easy, you tell me what to do. Have you ever stopped to think all the things that I've been through? Don't you take a walk? Don't you take a walk? In my shoes, don't you, baby, take a walk? Before you tell me what to do, don't you take a walk? Don't you take a walk? In my shoes, don't you, baby, take a walk? Before you tell me what to do.
so soft. Dance all night, little lady, it's your call. Step, 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 baby, follow my lead. You and me showing off for the club to see. No time to get rest, we doing our thing. Cha-cha, then we dip, top it off with a spin. Glide across the floor, let's do it again. By the way, little mama, can we be friends? I can't let this night just end. I really wanna know if I can see you again. Give me your number, we'll get back on the scene. We can hit another club if that's your thing. We'll be partners in crime, you and me, as we ripping up floors like two dancing machines.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Dorman. Welcome back, and thanks so much, Len, for coming and hanging out with us and sharing your stories. And you were saying on break we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of this certain entity that you had communication with.
Okay. Sit back and relax. For your listeners, that you or they will not believe. I decided on a certain Sunday to go to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery and contact, as I usually did, Olivia Mae Humphrey. And when I contacted her, I set my K2 meter up on the Patrick Stone, which is over, I think, about 6 or 7 members are buried there. Some of Libby's aunts, uncles, and cousins. And she would very quickly, within a few minutes, start. She got where she could almost tap out SOS messages and kind of play tunes on it. By rapidly, touching it, or however a spirit would do that, touch the sensor and let go with rapid succession. I couldn't move my fingers that fast to copy it. But anyway, I decided I'd do an experiment. I got a woman who had her own paranormal group, and she didn't have anybody in the group at the time. I said, "Can you meet me out there?" She said, "Sure." I said, "I need help in the system." So
I lost you, Len. I can't hear anything you're saying. What happened? Len, out there. So strange. Are you still there? Ruh-roh. Okay. Well, I'm going to mute that. I can still hear it, but you don't have to. So I'm going to try to restart this call with Len. Holy shnikes. Okay, let me, okay. Alright, there we go. Let me go back over here. Unmute. Okay, so you were just getting into this story, sorry.
Yes. Yes, well, that's my bad. My phone just lost cell service. I don't know why. Maybe power went off, but I got nothing on the phone right now. I got
That's
4G
interesting.
internet service, but
That happens
I
here a
got
lot.
nothing for a cell phone. I
Like
got
when we're
nothing
about to
for a
get
cell phone.
into some good
Uh,
stuff, like something will come in and interrupt and cause a fallout, like dropped call, different things like that. Paratechnical issues, but luckily we had 2 bases covered, so we were automatically able to go over to your Skype. So that's interesting. Got to take a note of that. But feel free to continue with what you were telling us.
okay. I asked her help, so she met me out there about noon on a Sunday. What do you call noon? Noon Sunday, I guess. And what I was going to do, contact Libby, so I did. I set the K2 meter out. She immediately started playing with it. She was using it as a toy. Once I freaked out a guy I did not know. He was there, wanted to see the place paranormally, see what all the hype was about. And he walked past me, saw the paranormal investigation, and walked on past. And he said something to ask me a question about another grave there. And I was all too happy to ask. I could not hear him for the sound, the alarm on my K2 meter. And I said, Libby, can you please stop playing with the K2 meters so I can hear what this gentleman has to say? And the alarm started going back off, start playing again, very loudly. And I just whipped around and said, Libby May Humphrey, like you do when your kid's about to do something wrong and you catch them. I'm sure you've done that before. And the sound immediately went off. The guy freaked and looked at me. He said, "You were interactive?" I said, "Yes, I was interactive." And he freaked out about it. I said, "Yeah, that's Libby May Patrick, and that's who I'm contacting." But anyway, I got the lady Melissa, and I contacted Libby May, and then got my echo, my SB7 out, and I said, "Would you like to go on a little trip today?" And I got a little squeaky young voice say yes. Okay. She could not talk to start with. She actually learned from me how to talk and how to interact on equipment. Because I was there 2 or 3 times a week, and she had picked up quite a bit from me. Yes, according to this research, spirits can learn. That's why sometimes you hear ghosts talk in English when they're of French or Spanish or whatever, because they've taken the time to learn a language. They can learn modern language. It's not like they're going to talk in primitive English or something like this or sound like a Victorian. They sit there and learn the modern way of saying things. They will learn what a car is. They'll know what a plane is. And Lydia picked up on this. And I said, "You want to go for a trip? You want to ride in the car?" "Yes." I said, "Okay. Attach to me, and I will take you to your house." Talking about the Humphrey house. And her mother had taken her there occasionally. But here's somebody else offered, the mother not around. I said, "Attach to me, and I'll take you to your house. Would you like to go to your house?" "Yes." I said, "Okay, well, attach to me, and I'll take you to the house. Just go ahead, just attach." And all of a sudden, the alarm quit sounding, and I felt like somebody just put a backpack on my back. You're a former Marine. You know what a backpack feels like. And I'm not talking about the backpacks your kids have 3 school books in going to school.
We're talking about an Alice pack, like a hiking pack.
By the way, yes. By the way, I do not have your picture up. I cannot see you at all. Anyway, I'm talking to your little blue photo there. Anyway, there you are. And I miss your pretty face. Anyway.
I know, I was making eye contact and everything, and you're just seeing my blue face. I'm sorry. I missed that base.
and Melissa started feeling like she had a backpack. And we realized that she had several siblings who died early. One half of some twins died, and one other sibling died. And they would come to visit her there at the cemetery, and two of them were there. So we got 3 kids jump on 2 of us. We could barely walk a quarter mile back to the car. Melissa had to go to the little girls' room, which is basically just a porta potty sitting in the parking lot. And I mean, one of the children was a male. I'm hoping the male was attached to me and not not attached to her, because I don't know what a male ghost would do if the body they're sticking to takes them to a porta potty. That would be traumatic for a 13-year-old. Anyway, we just felt that weight and the anxiousness during the several miles trip to the house. We got to the house, and Saki looked at me and said, "You have an attachment." "Yes, tell me about it." And the guy who was doing there, I'm not going to mention names. He's a so-called psychic. He's later been basically discredited by so many people. He got a divorce because he had feelers working with him, and he was screwing around with it, having affairs with the feelers, so his wife filed for divorce. And he was using the paranormal for money, and his wife found out he was also using her for sex, and she divorced him. That was expensive for him. But anyway, he was having a tour of the Humphrey house.
Is this that younger guy? Does his name start with an R?
No.
Okay.
No, this was an older guy.
All right.
And anyway, he was in there doing tours on the one Sunday of the month when the house was open, and he was in there doing a report for a newspaper, local newspaper. And I said, "Joe, by the way, I'll stuck my head in there because he and I worked together before." I said, "Edward, you got a." Might want to delete that. I said his name. "You have a crowd out here." He said, "Okay, I tell him I'll be there in a few minutes." So I thought, okay. So I came back out there. I said, "Look, everybody, give him 5 minutes. He's recording an interview for a local paper." "Okay, no. If you explain to people what the delay is when there's a delay, and it's a reasonable thing, okay, no big deal." At least he was there. But anyway, they let us in. I got in the living room. I said, "Okay, Libby, make it off of me." All 3 kids were released in the living room of the house. And I think the wife is going to join me later or something. And she actually saw, the corner of her eye, 3 kids roaming around the house. But the psychic said that there was an attachment on you, but it's gone now. I said, "Yeah, no, I just released them in the living room." So I released 3 of the kids' spirits into this house in the middle of his tour, and just before he had ghost box sessions. I said, "Look, contact anybody. She's here."
Yeah.
And he said, this is not your event. This is my event." I said, "Just letting you know." He did come up to me later on and said, "I tried to contact Libby. She was here." I said, "I told you I brought her here." But he was still upset with me about that.
I hate when the ego It's all about him. It's the ego. He needs to feed the ego instead of having people working together, and so many amazing things can happen. Instead, I need to fluff and feed my ego. You need to step aside right now. But he actually did what you suggested and had activity, but he was still resentful of it because it was your idea.
Yeah, and I brought her there. And he did not like me talking. It come to the point one time where he was trying to discredit me on Facebook because he did not like me giving out this information. Back in the times, he would be calling into your show and start yelling that I was giving out this information for nothing when he wanted to charge people $45 a piece to sit in on a seance to try to contact this person and try to tell this ghost story. And I'm giving the information out to you for free. And I think this information should be shared. It's history. It's a ghost story. It is as much fact as a ghost encounter can be. Because I've got several people that were there that know this, like a psychic who saw me walking up with an attachment, but was in the house with no attachment. But yeah, I know I turned them loose. But that was just hilarious, turning ghosts loose on somebody else's ghost tour. I laughed about that the rest of the day. He has caused trouble to Baxter's Grove because I have not told you, but the cemetery is owned by the county. But the land surrounding it, I mean completely surrounding the cemetery, it is owned by the Forest Preserve of Cook County, which is a division, of course, of county government. That's why they say you can't go in there at night.
Like BLM, Bureau of Land Management.
Forest Preserve at night. It's a Cook County version of that, yes. They have a few parks. They have thought about, because of the popularity of the cemetery, which they try to discredit and say it's not here, because they don't technically own that 1 acre. Baxter's Grove is on.
Well, I kind of like that they do that because there's a lot of people that'll go in there and destroy tombstones and put graffiti, like they'll either kick and break tombstones or do graffiti or other things that are not cool. So like a select few are to know, and we can pass that information around. But if it was known to everybody, people come in and they destroy things. I don't know why. I think they get some sort of negative energy off that, which is not good. You know, you're going to be like that on the other side too. You're going to be one of those scary creepers.
Well, you basically said what I was about to say. It's from the main path. It's a hiking trail through the Forest Preserve. And the place is known as a teenage love lane. You know, don't need a whole lot of explanation there. A rite of passage. If you're a real man, you'll go into the cemetery at 3 o'clock in the morning and tip over. And it's also known as a place to go in there and do drugs and drink. There's always bottles and cans in there. And no, the Forest Preserve will not take care of it because it's not there. There's trash. Finally, some volunteers put some trash cans there and try to clean it up. But you almost got to go there every day to help clean it up. It's because it is a mess. As you say, that's one place. That's one reason there is a lot of activity there, because at one time it was heavily desecrated. In fact, back in the 70s and early 80s, almost all the headstones were completely covered with graffiti. Looked like a subway wall, as you were describing a minute ago.
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
ridiculous.
happened with the place, and that's why it's so
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Plus
like when I go to a cemetery,
I don't
even
get
if I don't know you, I'll go and I'll clean your gravesite off and I'll replace your flowers to where they're not knocked over or whatnot. And, you know, I go there to help, even though you're not here anymore. This is your resting place. It should be beautiful. And so that's what we do when we go to the cemetery, is try to put things back together, not break and desecrate and, Yeah, desecrate is the word I was
Yes.
looking for. Like, they just demolish and destroy. Why? We're not meant to understand it. We're not on that level, but still, makes no sense to me.
Yeah. And but going back to the guy I was talking about, the Forest Reserve people have talked about across the path building some cabins that people could rent overnight. And they were going to put a parking lot close by so people could. The parking lot, you're parking across the street, they'd run people out of there at sunset. They were going to put a parking lot on the right side of the street. They went across the highway and rent these cabins overnight. But you had 3 or 4 paranormal people in Chicago saying they wanted those cabins every night for the first 2 to 3 months. And some people, they thought, well, I'll just up the bid. They wanted it every night for 6 months. And we're going to co-lease it, of course, charging people to spend the night in the cabins to have a nighttime cemetery and an all-night investigation of the cemetery. And they did, the Forest Reserve didn't want any part of leasing a cabin to a person, and then that person subleasing the cabin overnight. And then also people were scrapping and saying this person's crazy, he's going to hold seances, there's going to be devil worship, and went on and on. And the Forest Reserve people said, we're out of here. Forget the cabin idea. And he was one of them, and that's another part of the activity. Another thing about that place, the more time you spend there, the more you want to own it. There are people that take care of the place, trying to act as
Or
caretakers.
the more you want to be there, like it just calls you back.
Mm-hmm. It calls you back. And there's one guy in particular, he said if he ever won the lottery, he'd spend $100 million trying to buy that 1-acre lot from the county. And this is a cemetery that nothing's on, no burials are allowed there because it's abandoned. But he'd spent every dime of his lottery winnings to buy the cemetery in maybe a 100 yards and build there on the hill overlooking the cemetery because he wanted to live there. Other people want to have it under their control. They want the spirits under their control. They wanted to have exclusive rights to do tours there. And if you spend too much time there, you want to own it, you want to control it, you want to dominate it. To the point where one guy was climbing trees and throwing rocks at people, calling people names that would walk in there that he knew were other paranormal investigators. And it caused it hiding in the bushes, causing trouble, coming back behind the tours and telling the people on the tour, just don't trust this guy, he's lying, he's giving you incorrect information, he's full of it. And there's always scrapping, and I just never got into it. If I saw those people, I'd walk away there. I was there, people would come in, they'd want information, who's buried here, who's buried there, and I would give them the information. One young lady was, she was doing ghostwriting. She was talking to a guy at another garage. He had his name, some of his history, and he was a Civil War vet. He died natural causes, I think, in 1895, if memory serves, and was buried in that cemetery. I think he died in his 80s. Obviously, if he died in 1895, and he was a Civil War vet, he's up there. He lived a life. But she was contacting him and would spend time sitting by his grave but she didn't know where. She just had the feeling. She was just sitting in the right place. And she asked one friend of mine that knew a lot about the place, do you know, because she overheard him talking about so-and-so's buried here, so-and-so's buried here. Do you know where this guy is buried? And I said, yeah, you're sitting right beside his grave. And she almost passed out with shock. And one day I was in there with I don't know if I was using an echo box or ghost box, but communications device, what I call all of that. And that's what I call everything Bill Hauser does. Everything he does is not a true ghost box. I call it a communications device. Because that's what it is. That covers the whole That covers it all.
Yeah, I
SB7,
can't.
Echo Box, all of various ghost boxes.
Yeah, I have the SB7 and the
They're all
SB11, and
communication
Bill's
devices.
got a bunch of different ones. I think the last one and the majority of the time recently that we've been doing it is the Cultist box, or Culties. It's the last name of
Mm-hmm.
the person that created it. But SB7 is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite, even though it's little bitty.
Yeah.
I think the SB11 has too much going on. Like the light will go off and the temperature gauge will beep, and you could do two different stations, two different directions, and it's just too much. But the SB7 is perfect. I've gotten so much activity out of that.
Are you? I'm looking in the screen.
Mm-hmm. That's it right there.
You see what's right there? And it's very small. You see it right there beside my head. You know, here's my hand right beside it.
And if you're
You see how
recording
small
it, you have to turn it backwards because
But
the speaker is
yeah,
on the back.
yes. I quite often, of course, use the plug in the end of it and hook. See, where's the plug? There it is, right here on the side, and hook it into a external speaker. But
Mm-hmm.
where was I? Anyway, I was using a communications device, and because she was there, I knew the man's name, so I spoke to him. I said, "Are you here? Do you want to answer to me?" Yes. I said, "Would you like me to get?" I forget her name now. It was several years ago. I said, "Would you like to speak to her?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Come here a second." Didn't know her. Uh, she said, "Yes." I said, "Your gentleman would like to speak to you." So they carried on a few minutes conversation. She knew all this about him from Ghost Rider. She'd never communicated with him. And that's what kind of guy I am compared to the other people in there who didn't want either one of us in there because we were getting results. They were not. By the way, I went back in there. Bachelor's Grove is not reactive. Just told me he went in there a couple of times and asked specifically for Amelia and Libby May, and they did answer. Because basically, if you call somebody's voice a couple of times over their grave, they will hear you. You know, if they exist on the other side, they can hear you. And they did answer. We did carry on a very long conversation. I told them, I said, "Look, now that Libby can move around, and all your other kids too, why don't you go see the world?" I said, "There's a lot more than your house that you barely saw finished. And walking around these little towns around here, this so radically changed from where you are, and no real family members living here in the area anymore. Why don't you go see the world?" I said, "You want to go see Paris? Go see Paris. You want to see Washington, D.C.? Go to Washington, D.C. Have your fun. Take your kids and slip on a cruise ship and go sailing across the seas. Do what you want to do."
There's
And she didn't hang
also
around there anymore.
the option of the astral hop. It was funny, here in the cemetery, which, okay, so the past year I've been big on going and investigating cemeteries, and I'm very respectful. I know this is a place of rest. I don't want to disturb anybody, and I'm always careful of where I walk. But at one point, I took my ghost box to communicate with Dylan Redwine, and he was telling me him and this girl had gone on an astral hop and like out in the universe. Like you can go anywhere as a spirit. It's pretty interesting. But they had just got back from this astral hop, and it was really awesome, and it was insane. Just like I had never thought of that before, leaving this realm, like going out into the universe. But you can go anywhere, anytime you want. That's what my mom told me that one time when I used a Ouija board. And it was a good experience, but I never used it again because it scares me.
Yeah. Ouija boards scare me because I don't know enough about them. I'll leave that to the experts of the Ouija board. That's not my bag. I'm too old to learn a whole bunch of new tricks
Right.
on the Ouija board. So let the people who claim to be experts or at least know what they're doing use a Ouija board. I'm not going to be that one. I'm not going to learn the hard way usually
And
on
some
how to use
people
something that I've
say
never
that
used before.
us using ghost box or dowsing rods or different things like that to communicate with the other side, they're saying basically it's the same thing as using a Ouija board, which I don't agree with. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think these other devices we're using to communicate are the same as using a Ouija board?
Well, when you use a Ouija board, you're going to the other side, and a lot of people are not looking for a particular person. It says, anybody there? And when you say, is anybody there, they don't know how to react. You're not calling anybody's name. And you're opening the door, and you don't know who's going to walk through. And this is true of Ouija board or whatever you're using. If you use, I've used dowsing rods just to point to where spirits are. The first time I was at Bachelor's Grove ever, I used some dowsing rods. And I said, let me follow them. And they actually led me to the, I did not know this at the time. I hadn't done my research. Remember, the first time I was there. It actually led me to a couple of other graves, but it also led me to the Patrick grave. So I was guided to that one and led it to the Fulton, which is the big headstone there, which is the largest plot in the cemetery, to several graves there, and those people are also active. Also led me to the grave of the Civil War vet. And I did not know that within a couple of years, these would be places I would go visit weekly from spring through the fall, and occasionally in the winter. I have investigated Bachelor's Grove when there's 14, 15 inches of snow on the ground and more falling. I was down there one time where I had snow up to my knees. And in the cemetery, of course, it doesn't get shoveled out. And I think it was 28 below zero, if you can imagine, with a breeze. Try investigating that.
Well, it's funny though. I've heard experiences,
Luke.
which I haven't had this particular experience, but my daughter, even after I'd heard stories of the Silverton Cemetery, people go in there in the dead of summer and it's really hot everywhere else, but once you go into that cemetery, it's like AC on high, like super cold, to the point where you have to put on a jacket. It's insane. And it's funny, I've never been big into cemeteries until this year as far as investigating, because COVID, and I don't want to go to other people's houses and do things around people. I'd rather go out and investigate the open air, which has been very intriguing. Like the kid that's living with us, he does not want to go back to that cemetery because last time we went, he said there was this big black formation that kind of came upon him, and he actually crumbled down to the ground, like down below his knees, like ah. And we're looking around like, what's going on? We didn't see it, but he did. Unfortunately, he wasn't filming at the time, but for me, it's always been a place of peace and rest. But I go there and I ask before I start to investigate, is this okay? And it'll tell me yes or no, and then I'll go in. But like you said, if you go onto a Ouija board and you're trying to contact a certain person, it's different than saying, is there anybody out there? You know, that's not a good way to start it. All of us know somebody that's passed. It's safer, I think, to do it that way. But it's out there and sold as a parlor game to kids as young as 6 or 7, I believe, who generally get scared and run away from it and don't close it out correctly, so it's leaving this porthole or vortex open. It's kind of a scary thought.
Yes. I used to say a little prayer before and after opening up any communications device. I even, when I'm listening to Bill Howard's, when he's on your show, we'll say a little prayer. I said, do not come through the computer, through the internet, through the air, and come into my house. If you want to communicate, wait till I ask. You do not have permission to come into my home. Because I've had a couple of entities in the home, ranging from a child to we lived a few blocks from residential blocks, not city blocks, maybe one city block away from a hospital. And I think, of course, in hospitals, you have somebody die almost daily. I think somebody died and got lost and came into the house one night and tried to creep into bed with us. And I said, you have no business being here.
Y'all,
You've
hell
never
no.
lived here. We don't know you. Get out. And when you're firm with them, they'll usually, especially if they got no business, they kind of have to leave. It's kind of like you, if you walk in somebody's front door and they tell you to get out of their home, the human inclination is to go ahead and leave. Because if you stay in somebody's home that you don't know them, you've never lived there, you don't know anything about the house, you're just walked in the front door, you know you're going to be in trouble sooner or later if you just continue to stand in the foyer or sit down in a chair. Something bad is going to happen.
I know this guy that had been in
So-
trouble a couple times, and then he went to the wrong apartment after going out and partying one night. He thought he was at his apartment, but he accidentally broke into this old lady's apartment. You know, his key's not working. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He gets in there, goes and makes a sandwich, and then passes out on the couch and goes to sleep, and then wakes up in prison. 30 years later, I believe they're finally going to release him. It was like the 3 times and done. Like, it was his 3rd try, and so he was supposed to be a lifer because he's in California. But recently they said they were going to release him. I'm not sure if that happened or not, but holy shnikes, could you imagine? He meant no harm. He was just really fucked up and went into this house, made a sandwich, and passed out. And now you're spending over 30 years in prison. I could not imagine. Like, had I murdered someone or had armed robbery and in the process killed someone, I can understand that. But making a sandwich and sleeping on your couch? The old lady was really cool, but the government was like, you're done, son.
That's why most states have rescinded those 3 strikes or out programs, because for very minor violations, they were putting people in there for 30 years, and somebody does manslaughter, for instance, for the first time, some of them were getting 5 years, some as low as 3, some up to 7 years for manslaughter. But then again, you're talking about a guy broke into a place, didn't steal anything, made a sandwich, went to sleep in there. He was trespassing, yes. But maybe breaking
And I guess he
and entering.
did
You
steal
could
the
get into that
sandwich.
trespassing
Now that I
and-
think of it, he did steal that sandwich. But he didn't realize it. You know, he thought he was at home.
Very well. And you're going to give him life for that. But in the next court case, somebody's in there for manslaughter for the first time they're in court, and you give them 7 years?
Yeah, the person that killed my mother, drunk
that-
driver that killed my mother, slap on the wrist because his daddy was like a mayor or something like that. So yeah, that's all he got. Slap on the wrist, probation, I think, at home stuff going on. Nothing really happened to him for what he did. It really depends on who you know. The justice system sometimes comes through. I've seen it happen, but for the most part, it's very flawed. Just like, and I hate to get into this subject, so we'll just briefly touch on it, but it needs to be douched out, and we need to replenish and do something different because this is obviously not working. How long have we been waiting on this second stimulus check? You know, and people are rude and like, well, why aren't you working? Well, I would, but I have to homeschool my kids. You know, I have a job where I can be making $15 an hour cash every day, but I can't because I got to homeschool my kids because I'm not going to let them get sick. And everybody, you know, talks about it like I'm paranoid or whatnot, but the numbers are actually going up again. I don't know.
Yes. Oh, one of the story on Baxter's Grove, and we'll be done with it. I was in there, and it's kind of a 4-lane highway. Actually, it's a 5 lanes. It has a lot of turning lanes in the center. with a median when there's no need to, when there's no turn, there's a narrow median. When there's a turn, there's the turning lanes. It's technically a 5-lane road. Anyway, I noticed there was no traffic. I'm used to, every 30, 40 seconds having a car go by. It was daytime, and it's getting kind of late in the evening on a Sunday, and I said, okay, this is weird. There should be a car going by maybe every 20 seconds right now, and there's not. And then I look up, and I noticed that all the spirits in the cemetery had gotten quiet. I looked up, and I saw a very large heat signature. I'm used to Amelia, and Amelia was short. She was shorter than her husband, so she was about 5 foot. Or Libby, which is on, how long is an 11-month-old child? You're talking about something less than 3 feet, 2.5 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
So I was used to seeing that. This was towering, well over 6 foot, and wide, thick. I'm looking, and I looked back at my K2. It quit sounding off. I said, okay, spirits. Is there a spirit in this cemetery that doesn't belong here? And I got yes. So I looked at him. I said, I can see you, right? And just stood there looking at me. Hang on just a second. You going to bed? Did I get a smoochie?
No.
Oh, can I have a smoochie? Oh.
She wants a smoochie. She said you can't have a smoochie.
What? Can I have a hug? Can I have a hug? Hey, we're friends. We're family.
Is ranting on about. When I first started what I was going to do, I wasn't working, and I had paid some Facebook games early on. This was 12 years ago, and
Yeah.
I run out of that to do. I wasn't on Twitter. I was on Twitter a lot at the time, and I kind of got over that. And I said, I'm just sitting here bored. I have nothing to do. And she said, go out and make friends. It'll be fun. And I said, okay. I said, I'm thinking about joining this paranormal group. She said, go. You don't have to use a public transit system. You have a transit card in your back pocket.
Right?
You get $20 or something on the car. Go use it. And $20 will get you on a transit card. Will get you in a lot of places in Chicago. You can do some traveling. Because a lot of the... Now, some of the bus transfer, you have to pay again, but you only pay 25 cents. A lot of the times, they won't even charge you 25 cents if they say you go from one bus to another or one train to the other. But in some of the tunnels they connect, public transit goes. Sometimes you can sit there and pay your initial fee of $1.50, I think it was, and you may have to pay 1.50-cent transfer fee. So for $2 or less, you're the full length of Chicago, just going all over the city. So she said, well, go find somebody you want to do stuff with, go for it. And that's how I got into paranormal. So that's what she was saying when she went back in the bedroom. She said, go out and make friends, I said. It'd be fun, I said. And you were saying, I want a hug. And she said, go make friends, I said. It'd be fun, I said. So she's still reading all that.
Yeah,
What
like I was saying, when we do this Louisiana Nolans thing, I want her to be there. I'm hoping she'll be there. Step away from the work. I know it's like hard to get out of that shuffle, but
you might. Now there is you remember the plantation that's supposedly haunted down there? I would say let's go to it, but there's only about 1 or 2 ghosts in the place, and it's expensive to go into. I think they charge about $40-50 for a ghost station, and there is Another plantation Galen and I went to, I think it was the Oak Alley plantation.
Mm-hmm.
There's outbuildings that are former slave quarters. They fix and you rent those cabins. And I think this one I'm thinking about has 3 or 4 cabins you can rent. Now you can't get into the main house. Basically, what you do is you're on your own. You're in that cabin. There's a restaurant there where you can eat. Now, it closes in the evening, but you can go and get you something to eat. Go back to your house, maybe rest up a little bit, and then you can ghost hunt all night long on the grounds. If you go up on the porch, just don't tear up anything. That's all they have to do. There's a security guard around, but if he knows you're staying there, he'll just say, "How's everything? Okay," and move on.
Yeah.
You can't break into the main plantation, but you're paying so you as a guest because you are a guest.
Those places are interesting. Like, I've never been to one, like, on a paid ghost hunt or anything, but, almost 21 years ago, I'm pregnant with my daughter, my first daughter, and I'm doing catering at this plantation. Oh my gosh, the kitchen quarters, there was so much activity. I had to go outside repeatedly, and I know I was pregnant, but I needed to smoke. Like, I could feel... I don't know, there was just this stressful energy, and even out back where I'd go, it's like I couldn't get away from it. It was insane. Just the things that still remain there for unknown reasons. It's usually turmoil and strife or whatnot, like things you've gone through that you haven't put to rest, so you can't rest, but holy shnikes. I could imagine renting one of those cabins. Are you serious? Would you do that?
On the grounds of a plantation.
I know, that's insane. Would you do that? Like, I don't know if I would.
I would do it. Gail was a little bit hesitant. I could probably talk her into it as long as it didn't wake her up. But to be able to go, if there was 7, 8 of us, and we rented, I think all 3 or 4 cabins, go out and ghost hunt inside. Take turns going around from one cabin to the other, and then outside of the cabins would be amazing. And to go on the front porch of the main house. Oh, let me finish my story of the big guy in the cemetery, and then we go on break. The big guy, I saw the traffic, and I said, okay, I got to go. It wasn't dusk yet. I didn't have to leave, but 10 to 15 minutes with no traffic worried me. I said, something's going on. And so I left, got in the car, and I left going back to our house, going back to the road home, which coming out of the cemetery is going to the right. And so I noticed at the first intersection, which is about a half mile away, there was a police officer stopping traffic. It wasn't the police officer counting down, it was the same thing. Directing people to make a U-turn or take that left. There was no right turn at that point from their direction. Make them take the left to another highway going through the forest preserve. I said, now that's weird. There must be something going on the other side of the cemetery from where I was. I got home and did some research and come to find out that a half mile the other way to the left from the cemetery, at the other intersection, you see how far the roads are apart here, that, remember, this is all forest reserve. There's no cities, no stores, very few homes. But a guy was on a motorcycle, was breezing through a green light, accelerating, and somebody, Kane's probably drunk, ran the red light and hit that motorcycle dead, T-boned it at 60, 70 miles an hour.
Fuck that.
And, of course, the guy died.
Yeah, his head probably popped off.
The guy died instantly.
Ain't no helmet gonna help that.
And
Boy.
the first person, the closest person in the area, besides anybody, the person who hit him or cars around there, was me. So he was drawn to the cemetery and popped in talking to me, and then he followed me home. He talked to our resident spirit, who occasionally appeared as a shadow figure that I was telling you about earlier. He talked with him. He was looking in our bedroom. Gail saw him too. He was looking in our bedroom. We heard our resident ghost walking down the hallway. Then the two of them walking down the hallway. We never heard from either one of them again. We're assuming that our resident ghost jumped on the back of his, how do you describe a motorcycle in the afterlife? And they may still be touring the world together. But he followed me home, and basically I was not explaining the afterlife because I don't have the facts. I've learned some sense what it is.
And when it
But
happens that fast, I bet he was confused and like, what the hell's going on? You see yourself laying there, like, what do? You try to crawl back in your body. That's not working. Well, this seems like he's open. He could probably see your aura or your light or something, and was like, I'm going to go with him because maybe he can help me, because you do deal with the other side and you do paranormal investigations. I just said do. But perhaps he can come through the ghost box or whatnot and figure out what to do. Like, what a huge, like, change of scenery and lifestyle and everything, like, existence. All of a sudden, you're not there anymore. Like, and that's like a bug hitting your windshield sort of death.
Yeah. You're dead without knowing what hit you.
Yeah. Well, I hate to interrupt, but we do have to go.
He found a friend.
He did. Yeah, I'm glad he found you.
He found a friendly ghost, though, and they're gone. So I'm assuming both of them are happy. They never came back. And I'm also assuming it's break time. What kind of music we got coming up?
We got Dancing Machine by Prime Example. Prime Example is from Wisconsin. But we have Roy Washington, who is our musical host, the one that provides all of our music. Then we have Gravity from Krakow, Poland with My Last Goodbye. Dan Medina, who is actually a member of Gravity, trying to depart and do his own thing with I Won't Let You Go. And then Fred Johnson III from Canyon County, California with After Dark, one of my favorite bands of all times on this list of music I got. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
I'm about to hit the road. I'm going
really love it how your body's so soft. Dance all night, little lady, it's your call. Step, 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 baby, follow my lead. You and me showing off for the club to see. No time to get rest, we doing our thing. Cha cha, then we dip, top it off with a spin. Glide across the floor, let's do it again. By the way, little mama, can we be friends? I can't let this night just end. I really wanna know if I can see you again. Give me your number, we'll get back on the scene. We can hit another club if that's your thing. We'll be partners in crime, you and me, as we ripping up floors like two dancing machines.
things come in said. Streets of these are going to dead end. Listening to waves on windy days, standing by the wall, making sense of it all. So alone in the dark, all alone in the dark, all alone in the dark. You're alone in the dark. 'Cause I won't let you go. You're so far away, always with my soul. I won't let you go. Oh, you're so far away, always with me in my soul. Yeah, yeah. Looking for a reason, not a lead. Mystified, lives inside a world selling us all. Oh, she's alone in the dark, all alone in the dark, all alone in the dark, so alone in the dark. 'Cause I won't let you go. I won't let you go. You're so far away, always with me in my soul. Yeah, yeah. And I won't let you go. And I won't let you go.
My driver pulls up in my limousine, ready to take me anywhere I want to be. I said, I want to go. Take me to a college scene. I'd like to go and dance, have drinks, and hunt the perfect date. Yeah. Living at the dark, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, after dark.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we have Mr. Len Dorman on the line. Len, welcome back, and thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us.
Howdy, howdy.
So we're looking at this ghost box and trying to get it going. I'm changing out my batteries real quick because I can't get mine to go on, but yeah, you power it on, choose AM or FM, you got your volume up, sweep rate, and then go sweep forward or sweep reverse, and kind of hold it down, I guess, for a second and see if that works.
And that works. What
Nice.
it wasn't doing wasn't holding it down.
Okay.
Okay, if anybody's listening on the other side, what I'm trying to do is contact Alan from the Allen house. He spoke to me once a few weeks ago. I just wonder if you have anything now you'd like to say. Now that the spirit box is closer to the Allen house. I'm trying to contact Alan from the Allen house in Monticello, about 27, 28 miles from here. Yeah, people listening. Alan, you usually like to communicate with me quite a bit when I go to Allen house. For right now, you're welcome here to speak, if you like, so people can hear you. Alan, I realize your mother probably does not want to come down here. She's a little bit shy. You could just talk over spirit talk. But you usually talk to me. Okay. I think we need to end this session. We're not doing much of anything. Alan's here around. Maybe we can try another device. If you're listening. Did you get anything at all?
I'm here. Anything you'd like to say? I'm here. I'm sorry. It's been a penalty. I'm on the back deck. I'm sure you're... I'm here. It's hard. I'm here.
Okay. You said I'm on the back deck. I don't really have a back deck like the normal word. I'm planning on building one, but that's not done yet. What I've got back out the back door, a pallet, which looks a lot like a deck. And when you said back deck, we have a metal door on the back. In fact, we have metal doors front and rear. Something tapped on the middle of the back door when you said deck.
Yeah, and you just looked over like, what the hell is that?
That was somebody, and tapping on a metal door makes a very distinct sound. And something like they tap their fingernail on our back metal door when you said back deck. So Alan was indeed here. Now, see, I did not hear anything.
Yeah, it was very faint. You had to listen like really closely. And there was times at the end where I could hear somebody saying something, but I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I didn't type anything unless I heard it. But I heard a lot more than what I typed. I just couldn't understand what exactly they were saying.
All right. Alan's not used to coming up here and doing that, but he was letting me know he was here and he was listening. So I tell you what, we want to try another device, or we got enough time to try FM?
Yeah, we actually have about 38 minutes left for the show, so we can try another device or whatever you're thinking. What do you want to try?
Okay, let's try.
I gotta put my listening ears on.
FM.
And I also gotta say, like, ever since you mentioned the backpack earlier, I keep getting a pain in between my shoulder blades. It just came out of nowhere. Poor Champ said, my mom goes, is your sound messing up? And I said, just tell her, it's a ghost box, Mom.
Okay, here we go. Turn the volume back up on the speaker. Now, I know you said you were here 2 minutes ago. Was that you that tapped on my back door? Is there anything else you'd like to say? No. Alan, if that is you, rather than coming to the back deck, come around to the front door, and you can wave at me through my picture window. Blinds are open. Yeah, I know there's orange light there, but you can wave at me through the window. Tap on the front door. Okay, Alan, and anybody else, thank you for your time. I think we need to shut this down. Right? Thank you for talking, and please do not come back and wake me up in the middle of the night. I said if you make yourself known over the device, but after that, go back home and rest up. Please do not come by my house tonight. Thank you very much. Okay, what'd you get that time?
I got, hello, we are all here. I'm out back. You are the great communicator in between. He's not broke. It occurred to me, it's the basics, the two behind, it's me, we're here, your brother, purple, no, it's a mutant, it's hard, it's real, up and down the crib, basic karma, it will be done, I'm tired, and then it was quiet for a while, then I got, it's her, the mom, she cares, what happened, I care, my son, she's on the other side, I'm brother, in the end, oh yeah, it's different, good night, and baby.
Okay, which is interesting. Do you know who I'm trying to contact? Or the story behind them?
Yeah, could you share with our listeners?
Yes, I was wondering if you knew the full story. This is Alan. It's not his real name. He died by 23 years old many years ago. His mother committed suicide due to a bad love affair. And they hang around in the Allen House in Monticello, which is known internationally as one of the most haunted private residences inside the United States. His mother doesn't usually like to communicate, and she's not known for roaming around. But she did appear in the Star City Library here. At least I believe it was her. Shortly after the owner of the Allen House he wrote a book concerning the Allen House and did a book review and, of course, a book signing at the local Star City Library. Shortly after that, a woman appeared in the library, even though there's no reason, because the land of the library, there was nothing ever there. There should not have been any residual haunting of a brand new library. Because nothing was there before. So from the description of the person who saw her, I gathered it was the person, Liddell, who haunts the Allen House in Monticello. Allen is her son. So when you said the mother, we're all here, that was actually relevant. So that I don't know if you knew the whole thing or not, but
No.
her mother is the main spirit there at the Allen House.
That's awesome.
So when you said you heard mother and the son, and we're all here, means that not only was Alan out in back of the house, his mother was with him. Probably because they've never been here before. This is a very neutral spot here. There's nothing here. There was nothing ever here. This is not the site of an old Indian village. There was no house here before this one was built. To build this house, they cut down some very old pines and had to cut down some very old oaks. And I'm talking about oaks that you could barely wrap your arms around. In fact, several of them you could not touch your fingertips wrapping your arms around. They were that old. So there was no house here before. This road they had to cut the trees down to make the road that I live on.
Yeah. At our old A-frame, which was very, very haunted, my husband had a placard put on the side of the house that said, back in 1883, on this site, nothing happened. And I'm like, something had to happen in the past because we got Baby E and Mommy E. My daughter says, she calls them that because that's the sound they make. E. So that's pretty creepy. They actually kicked her down the stairs, like all kinds of different things happened. I almost jumped out the window one night because this thing came into my room. And I was not awake. It was so crazy. Luckily, my future husband was there and saved me from jumping out the window because I would have probably died or been paralyzed. But it's insane how they come through. And like you said, nothing was here before. No site, no Indian, whatever, but there could be different energies there for some apparent reason, or perhaps there was a little shimmy shack or something on the side of this mountain where something tragic really happened. It's hard to say because not everything is recorded.
And it's interesting that what you got was relevant to what Alan would say. Alan's a jokester. I was doing an Echovox session in the Allen house, and I was communicating with Alan, and I walked in with a baseball hat like I was wearing earlier. It is just a generic redneck, you know how Arkansans are. And I said, okay,
never
there's
say
one guy
Arkansas.
here in the tour.
Never ever say Arkansas.
Arkansan.
Arkansas.
Not from here,
Arkansans, not Arkansans.
Yeah. Anyway, I said, tell me the name of the gentleman wearing the baseball cap. And by the way, Alan liked baseball, so he knew what a baseball hat was. I said, tell me the name of the guy with the baseball hat. And the guy knew he was looking. He looked around real quick, saw the eyes dart back and forth. There's nobody here with a baseball cap but me. So he hesitated, and Alan immediately said his name loud enough for him to hear it. He ran out of the room and out of the house. He was there on Halloween. This was on Halloween. So he was there to see a haunted house on Halloween, and he got his name mentioned. So let's see what we hear. Okay. Okay. Two T's. Tessa. That's good enough, isn't it? Okay. And we'll sweep over here and we'll turn this. This is an interesting device because instead of a radio, I'm using a computer pad. This computer pad is not connected. It can be used as a cell phone. It's got the connections for it, but it's not connected because it's really large. You see how big this is next to my hand here.
Uh-huh.
This is a big device. It's as long as my hand. And much bigger than a phone I would feel comfortable using. And it's a pad. It has limited programming. And this is one of the biggest little programs on here. Okay.
That's weird. We just got an echo.
Yes, because it's starting up. Okay, this is going to have some reverb because I hooked on the reverb. Alan, are you here? You have communicated to me with the echo box before. You should be familiar with this. Should I continue our conversation? Alan, did you tell us that your mother, Liddell, made the trip down here with you? Alan, if you're still here, would you like me to go look out my back door? Well, I want to call it into that when we discuss it. We're going on break. So we're going to end this session right now. Thank you for everybody who spoke. We may contact you again in a few minutes. But for now, thank you. And please don't come back later. I'm going to come back tonight and open up the echo box. Right now, I'm going to shut it down. Okay? I'm going to put it back on. All right? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I got a ton of stuff. I'm trying to get back to the original because I kept hitting enter. Let me see. Okay. That is from the last one. Oh, Nikki said from the last one, we are here, we hear you, we want to talk, what sound to hear, oh, here we are not, oh go, really, go, come on Mal, come on back now, old one, I was, gypsum, going quiet, a shot sound like a gunshot, no, we are, so are, coming, turn it off, Ghosta are now, we're tuning in, so light, so come, it's not now, coming up, we don't think, agree to them, I'm Hotep, looking at it, bribing it, trying, coming up, purring sound, we are, not here, next time we come, we're up, so up, don't do it, we are coming, then there was singing, naturally, we are, we believe, we up, and we coming, let me see what I got. Starting to, we are, a couple here, well, giddy up, the middle, Kathy, she can't end, chart, Kathy, and, Chris, hold on, okay, Chris, her mother, puts a second, hey you, stop it, sorry, yep, well this is what you are seeing, it's nothing but what you're seeing are, my son is a man, it's a safari, it's the base pot, it's the same, and then M, we made the trip, yep, Frank, who's the tank, who, Bedford, whom, which would, birth, something, textiles, tramp, something else, beach, fast, who, he helps us, he is the bra, yep, what, he, and it was like a echo after that. Nikki said, after what I just heard, I'm not typing this one up and making it public. And then I got you, truck, permission, whose, whom, he, it's supposed to, we too can, corrupt, not we, that's homebound, we have stopped, you too, if, echo, we try, on the, it's no egg, we too, interesting to tell, that's what the beach is for, we can't forgiven, that's what it, train, Jesus, true, that is good, upwards, yeah, manipulant, of course, true him, food, Thomas, try, emperor, try written by us, listen, I am still working towards it, the emphasis, and it was weird because like during this it was a male and female talking back and forth, basically, else it is trodden, the people don't see the active, but sorry, what's that, back door, it's more than you, wow, it must be true, or more, than you, wow, it must be true, on Facebook, he, out there would have been, covered bases there, and then did, putrid, ancient mutant, the sky, alright, yeah, when we, then I heard my name, Tessa, preference preferred, yep, we are on, yep, yeah, up mute, it's not there, stop joking, it's what is safer, it's me, in, between, it's just upper presence, yep, what you quit, what we, nothing, phantasmal, reference, fraction, go to, Maybe I don't even in India any, it is mutual. How about that light? It's the past. Evil, yep. Any realm. Yeah, and if he's doubt and then put forth, yeah, bloody, that's Britain. Paraphrase. Like naked, therefore, yeah, lips, what, you let, sound bit, yep, well, I'm out. All right, Captain, and there we are, Texas, we are there, sorry, my own, you much, broke more than, one group, Captain, here's that brutal rip, know and see, the motion difficult to obtain, we must sleepy, Catherine, we are virtually the same, planet out behind the west, and then northeast, teach them without half bread in the mountain.
And let me explain to you how Equivox works. Equivox was developed in Scotland by a gentleman making a spy device where you could hook the program up into a cell phone, point the speaker at a table in a restaurant or anywhere else, and hear what people are saying at the table. And he was testing it and at night and realized he was the only person in the building, but yet he was still hearing voices, and realized he was hearing voices of the dead. The way it works, it's got a library of vocal sounds. I have it currently set for English. There is, I can change the settings and change it to European languages.
So is it kind of like a digital dowser where it goes by phonics or whatnot, or is there a word bank?
There is no word bank. There's a sound bank. Like you said, phonics, incomplete words, half words. So if you hear a complete word, it's either me speaking it picking up you speaking it through the speakers, or somebody else in the room speaking. The only other person in the house is Gail. She's sound asleep in the room behind me. The TV set is off. There's no radios on. There should not be a complete word coming out of the speaker if you're not speaking and I'm not speaking. So anything other than what you heard me say or that you yourself said, there should be nothing.
And I said...
sometimes I turned it on and gotten nothing.
Yeah, and I was hearing two voices, and Nikki said, yeah, I heard three voices, 2 males and 1 female. And there were some British accents going on, so on and so forth. Like, it was interesting. It's kind of like, instead of talking to us, they're hearing what we're asking and then kind of having a conversation between themselves, which happens quite often. I don't know if they don't realize we're listening and they're just doing their own thing, but it's pretty intriguing, for sure.
Yeah, that was interesting. I thought I heard my name a couple of times. I heard yours. And it's interesting that we were talking to Alan and his mother, Liddell, and they were saying earlier they were here, and all of a sudden you're hearing a man and a woman talking. And the fact that I think you picked up on your list there that my son is a man or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be interesting that he died, I think, 22 or 23 years old.
Well, Len, I hate to interrupt, but we are at the end of our time. That's terrible.
Yes, we are.
Man, we got to do another show. Can you tell our listeners how to find you, where to ask questions about the show or about anything?
The only way to contact me is by messenger on Facebook. Just look up Len Dorman, Lendorman on Facebook, and you'll find me. Just shoot me a message. If you want to be friends, I only discuss paranormal on that account. So if you want to talk about paranormal, send me a friend request. If you got a paranormal group, I'll be glad to talk with the paranormal group. Or I love to discuss paranormal, even if it's on Messenger. Just contact me by Messenger on Facebook.
Well, thank you again so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late in the Rockies. Late Night in the Rockies. It was awesome. And thank you to all of our friends and family on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else beyond the Omniverse you may have been listening tonight. It was my pleasure indeed, and I can't wait to do it again next weekend when we have second Chris Garcia and then Surprise Sunday, because even I don't know what's going on next Sunday. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. If you'd like to join the Skype after party, look me up at Tessa Thomas Peterson, or give us a call at 970